Right, folks, welcome back to 3Zen. This next story I have for you is about another student in class 7702. Went through, the front says here, 9 January 76 to 8 December 76. I've already shared a story about Joe, a couple stories about Joe. Now I'm going to tell you about Emo. I call him Emo because when he went through pilot training, that was his name. He was a great student to have in the flight. Always came into the flight very well prepared, highly motivated, and quiet, but it was just fun to be around. And when he opened his mouth, because of that quietness, when he opened his mouth, you tended to listen to what he had to say, even as a student. Here in another video soon, I'm going to tell you a story of flying with Emo on his last ride in the program, but that's beyond what I want to go into here. Emo graduated and was brought back to Vance as an IP in the 38. About the time he graduated is when I went to flight safety school. So he goes down to PIT, pilot instructor training, while I go out to safety school. And then we come back together, in the spring of 77, maybe March, April sometime, maybe May. And when we came back, I needed to fly for currency. I had exceeded my landing currency in the 38. So here 3-4 months earlier, I'd flown with Emo when he was a student, and now I was going to go fly with him where he was the IP and actually the pilot in command because I was non-current. So I'm in the back seat to get my landing currency, and we take off, and typically we flew a box pattern coming around for simulated single engine, and we were flying on 3-5 center. I still remember this. So we're coming in and flying, and when I came in, I flared too high. That means I started the landing process a little bit higher than what I should have. And I kind of knew it. It was one of those things that I guess ego, maybe, just whatever. I was going to gut it out and get it on the ground. But Emo sits there, and when he couldn't stand it anymore, he says, "Captain Hollica," he says, "this is about the time, if I were you, I'd start thinking about taking this motherfucker around." I mean, he was absolutely correct. I'd flared too high. We were getting too slow. And that's all I needed. I just took both throttles then, went to burner, and we went around. But the thing is, as I was doing the go around, I started laughing. I was laughing so hard because of his demeanor. It was pretty serious to get slow on a single engine approach. Not only was it precarious to get slow, but to flare high. You add those two together, and he just sat there as calm as ever. And I suppose in retrospect, looking back, that was an indicator just how good of an IP he became. At any rate, I left Vance in 78. He was, I think he had by that time been selected for standardization and evaluation. And that's the last I'd seen him. And then caught up with him a little bit at Randolph in mid-80s, early 80s, I guess. And we always just kind of stayed in touch on the peripheral. And then here of late, was able to reach out and find him again. He lives down in Atlanta, so I had the opportunity to go down there earlier in the spring. Met up with him and Marty, and God, we just had a ball talking about our old experiences and so forth. But after the Air Force, Emo went to the reserves, flew C-141s, and then he got hired by Delta. And as he sat there and talked that morning in that restaurant booth, or that day in that restaurant booth, I just sat there with pure admiration from this kid that I saw coming into pilot training to where he ended up, or how he ended up as an airline captain, and just pure admiration. Another one of the students that when you see them coming in, you get a sense of how good they can be, how good they will be, but you just have that sense. But to see it materialize, it just warms your heart, and that's one of the rewards, I think, for being an instructor pilot, is to see the fruits of your labor some 30 years later, 40 years later, whatever it was. And I'm just proud of that kid, as I am with so many of you. Thanks a lot.